All right, what is up, guys? This is my first time doing this. Um, I'm here because this Jeffrey Epstein stuff is driving me crazy. I don't understand what's going on. You know, and I don't blame conservatives. I don't necessarily blame anybody on the differing political aisles for this, though. I'm sure a lot of people are responsible. It's not just Democrats or Republicans. I would say that it's a lot of everything. And my disappointment is that I feel like we're all being treated like we're stupid, you know? Like none of us can see what's clearly obvious. What's obvious to me is it feels like that this guy probably killed himself. Or at the very least, he probably had good there were probably people that really wanted him to, you know, depart this earth. I got to be careful with the terminology I'm using. I understand this is a very touchy subject as well, so I am going to do my best to make sure that YouTube doesn't permanently kick me off their platform because that would be no bueno. I don't want that. I just, I feel like everything that's been talked about thus far has been incredibly underwhelming. And everything that's been released to the public is stuff we essentially already know, aside for some of the details coming out of the FBI, you know, Cash Patel and Dan, whatever his name is, Bonjonio, something like that, something very Italian, which I am not. Look at the complexity of my skin. There's no Italian running through these pale white Irish veins. Um, but yeah, them saying that Epstein, did what he did to himself, and then having this footage comes out, the prison cell footage that now they're saying is missing over 2 minutes of footage. It's like, okay, like all these assurances that people are trying to give us, like the president coming out and saying, hey, there's nothing to see here. This is a big hoax. Like, there is no such thing as an Epstein client list. Like, that to me just seems like, number one, you're betraying a big part of your base because a lot of your base does not believe the traditional narratives that the government tells us. You can call them conspiracy theorists and you can call them this and call them that. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not looking at both sides and seeing that there's some truth and sometimes a lot of truth to the very outlandish things. I mean, guys, we live in a world where a man was blackmailing people with underage girls doing inappropriate things, celebrities, politicians, world leaders, people in science on an island in the middle of nowhere. Like, this is happening. Okay. So just call if that's a huge conspiracy theory. 10, 15 years ago, if I came up to you and I said, hey, there's an island in the middle of nowhere, this guy who's a multi-billionaire, and all we know was he was like a math teacher, is having all these celebrities, world leaders, and famous people come to the island so he can compromise them by giving them underage girls to do you know what with. If I had told you that 10 or 15 years ago, you would say, "Oh, you're Alex Jones. You watch InfoWars." Well, okay, but that turned out to be true. So, like, I I just it's so hard knowing that there was this guy who was doing this to these girls, and there were a lot of other powerful, famous people as well doing it as well. And the only person that's in jail is Jeffrey Epstein's madam, Ghislaine Maxwell. And now you have information like, oh, she wants to talk. And initially I'm thinking, okay, that's probably a good sign because maybe she can give us the details about who was on this island. But then also, I heard that people were saying, well, maybe she's going to try and lower her sentence and get some kind of plea deal, and we'll be back in the same boat that we're in. We won't know anything, and she'll just be free. And that's a possibility too. I mean, any scenario you can think of is a possibility. If you think that this list is never going to come out, there's a strong possibility of that. If you think this list is going to come out tomorrow, the way the world has gone in the last 5 or so years, especially with the pandemic and all of us being locked down. I mean, guys, we're living through crazy times. They're crazy. It's a crazy time to be alive right now. So if you don't think that anything is possible at this point, you might be the crazy one. I mean, if you told me like the plot of the Terminator movies was going to happen in a week, yeah, you might be onto something. I don't know. Anything's possible. But anyway, the point that I've ultimately wanted to make throughout this video is I've been really upset about all this Epstein stuff. I wish I wasn't being treated like I'm stupid. And I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way. I'm sure you wish you weren't being treated like you were stupid, because that's how we're being treated right now. We're being told there's no such thing as a list. And I mean, if you do enough research, you'll find out that that's BS. It's pretty obvious that this guy had at least some records of the people that he was in contact with. Now, whether those people are guilty of the things we would associate them of being because Epstein knows them, I mean, that's in question. You can't just look at a list of names from a sketchy guy and assume that every single one of them did sketchy things. But for God's sake, like, we need some arrests. All right. Because if Pam Bondi, who is the head of the DOJ, is saying that there's thousands of hours of videos that contain, the stuff that Jeffrey Epstein is being accused of, or has, better yet, is for sure done. That's what I should say. If there's thousands of hours of these videos that Jeffrey Epstein has for sure done, and there's other people on them, you don't need to release the videos. Just tell us who's on the videos. You might not even have to arrest these people. You probably could just put the names out there, and I'm sure angry people who want justice will do what angry people do. I'm not saying that I condone that because I'm on YouTube. Keep that in mind. But I'm just saying, like, there's been no sense of justice for this. I think one of the big tipping points for me was I watched this video with Blair White, who's the kind of a right-wing influencer, but I mean, she's also trans, so it's kind of a conundrum. And she was interviewing one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims, and like, she's a little off. But I mean, imagine that someone took you on an island against your will and made you do all these things with all these strangers. Some of them are so powerful, they could just take you off the planet in the blink of an eye. And you go through that for years. You'd probably be a little crazy too. Okay? You'd probably be a little, you wouldn't be all there. You'd probably be suffering a lot of trauma. So I'm watching this interview, and like, she says a lot of kooky things. But also take into account that this woman got a giant settlement from JP Morgan because they were helping launder money for Epstein. And then I think she mentioned that she got a big settlement from the United States government, which, I mean, okay, why does the United States government have to give you a big settlement? I'd like to know. And like, as someone who has experienced trauma and someone who knows the signs of trauma. Like this woman has clearly gone through some of the most traumatic things that a person can go through. And to just know that there's upwards of thousands of women that have had this happen to them because of this one guy, Jeffrey Epstein. I'm just like, even if like this whole thing is a hoax, right? Like at least in the sense that it's blown out of proportion, that maybe Jeffrey Epstein acted not mostly alone, but a lot of these people we associate him with just, were there for a party and never did anything wrong. I mean, even if that's the case, like, still though, we should be able to know who these people are. And like, someone made up a point, this podcaster that I also listen to, named Tim Dilling, he made a point saying that, probably one of the reasons why Trump doesn't want to release the Epstein lists, at least uh, as far as this guy theorizes, is that the people who are on these lists or people associated with the people on these lists would, they take Donald Trump out, meaning, they take him out permanently because this guy has had, multiple attempts on his life. So why would that not happen again if, some of the most powerful and shady people on the planet are exposed? The other thing too is that, and even if that's Donald Trump's excuse, I don't like it. I'm just like, all right, well, someone's got to be a hero, and you are the president of the United States. Like, yeah, I get it's a dangerous job, but you're also one of the most protected people in the world. Like, if I had the list and I released it, I'm sure I wouldn't be here the next day. I'm sure someone would come knocking on my house or someone would put something under my car and I'd be gone. I'd still do it though, because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. The other thing that's like really disappointing about all this is it, so we live in I don't want to say a PC society, and like some of this woke stuff has kind of gone too far. Like, look, most sensible people are going to admit that like some of this woke stuff is just, it's not for most people. Not to say that progressives have good intentions. I think the vast majority of them do. I myself, I'm pretty progressive in most aspects of life. But a lot of this comes from like, we want women to feel safe in places. We want to give women equality. We want to protect women. There's a lot of grifters that say these kind of things. If you're not going to release this list, then you're not protecting women. Like you're not a protector of women. You don't care about women, and like, you can't just blame conservatives for this. You have to blame Democrats too, because Democrats, Joe Biden was president for 4 years. Jeffrey Epstein was gone before Joe Biden was president. He actually, ceased to exist in the form he was in during Trump's presidency. So, like, both parties on the aisle, if they're saying that they're protecting women and yet they're blocking efforts for this kind of stuff to get released, then, they're full of crap. Like, none of them are to be taken serious. None of them are who they say they are, So, I mean, I just wanted to come on here and vocalize my own frustrations with this and see if anyone resonated. If you do, great. I'm not gonna ask for anything. I think that these kind of conversations need to be had, and people need to speak out because obviously, it doesn't seem like anybody is going to get any sort of satisfaction through the government. We're not gonna get any closure through them, at least as far as it looks like. Maybe we will down the line, and hopefully, thank God that happens because people don't need to make the effort to get their voices heard. Our elected representatives will actually do what we elect them to do. But right now, it seems like people just need to talk. Regular people like you, me, we need to talk. We need to make our voices heard. We got to talk about the things that frustrate us. And regardless of whatever political aisle you're on, we all got to come together because I think this is one of these things that transcends party lines. It goes beyond, your political associations. It really just it cuts deep into your heart and soul to know that so many people were victims of a horrific monster. And the people who are the victims are women who probably didn't know what they were getting themselves into. And even if they did know what they were getting themselves into, that's not a life anyone's supposed to live. That's not a life that anyone's supposed to live, you know? I think inherently all people are born good. And as long as you're not out there manipulating and hurting and doing bad things to people, we all deserve a chance to let ourselves shine, be known, and we deserve respect. And right now, a lot of these women, they're not getting the respect they deserve. The American people and people worldwide who have vested interest in this, they're not getting the respect they deserve. And this is not the world I want. I don't want this world. I didn't vote for this world. I just want transparency. I want to be trusted. I want to trust the people who are elected to lead me. So I'll end it on that, everybody. I hope that whoever watches this, maybe you're inspired to do something and say something and speak up. And God bless you. Things get better. Deuces.